Okay guys, today we're going to do comparing and ordering fractions, but first we're going to do a little bit of review, so pretend you're here with me and you can shout answers at your screen. Okay, let's pretend we have the fraction 2/3. Who remembers, I feel like a crazy person talking to myself by the way, who remembers, Ivan, Nathan, stop talking to each other. See, it's like we never left class. Alright, I know, Mila. What is the top number called in our fraction? The number on top. I can hear you. Numerator. Okay? The top number is called the numerator. What is the bottom number called? See if you remember. Denominator. And what do I always say that line is? Whenever we get to that line, we say that line means divided by. Right? That's what a fraction is. It's the numerator divided by the denominator. So if I have one candy bar, right, one candy bar, but I have to divide it by 2 people, that's why you have 1/2 of a candy bar, right? 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. That's what the fraction is. So, can't find my eraser. We're going to do a little bit of comparing. So let's say we compare 2 fractions that have the same denominators. 5, 6, and 2, 6. Okay? Well, which one's bigger? This is really easy. 5 is bigger than 2. So 5, 6 is bigger than 2, 6. If we drew those out, pretend those are the exact same size. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here I have 1, 2. Right? Which one's bigger? Which one's more? Well, the 5, 6, obviously. We can see that with drawing pictures, or we can see that just 5, 6 is bigger than 2, 6, right? So now let's get a little more complicated. Let's do this with numbers that do not have the same denominator. So we'll keep 5, 6, and let's do 2/3. Well, 5 is bigger than 2, but 5, 6 is different than 2/3. These are different. We still have to know which one is bigger, which one's more. So one way that you guys really like doing this, that was easier for you, is when we cross multiply, right? So I'm going to take my denominator and my numerator from across our fractions, and I'm going to multiply. What's 6 times 2? 12. Now let's do the other side. I'm going to use a different color so you can see this better. Let's cross multiply these. 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay? Well, what's bigger, 15 or 12? 15. So in this case, 5, 6 is bigger than 2/3. And I want to explain why that works. Why does cross multiplying work? So, remember, we did this with equivalent fractions. Let's say I wanted to make my denominators the same. And we'll do this again when we do ordering fractions. Let's make these both of my denominators 18. Why am I making both of my denominators 18? Because just looking at these, I know that 6 times 3 is 18. So I know I can make both of these denominators 18. Remember, you can stop me whenever you want to go back. All right, how did I get my 3 to become an 18? I had to multiply by 6. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 2 times 6 is 12, which is what we got when we cross-multiplied. 6 times 2 is 12, okay? Now over here, how did I get 6 to be an 18? I had to multiply by 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 5 times 3 is 15, which is what we got when we did 5 times 3, right? We got our same numbers. So the reason why cross multiplying works is because I'm saying if we made our denominators the same, then those would be the new numerators. And 15 is bigger than 12. 15 eighteenths is bigger than 12 eighteenths. That's why cross multiplying works. Let's do one more example of comparing. I know you guys got this. But let's do another one. Let's do 3, I don't know, sevenths and 4 fifths. And we'll just cross multiply. 7 times 4, 28. 5 times 3, 15. What's bigger, 15 or 28? 28. So 4 fifths is bigger than 3 sevenths. And that's why the cross multiplying works, right? If we changed both of these denominators, those would be our new numerators. That's why that works. So now let's do ordering fractions. Because you are going to have a quiz on comparing fractions and on ordering fractions. And remember, one way that we would order fractions when we had our fraction strips right in front of us and we had it in a sleeve and we would mark with our marker. That's one way to compare fraction, is to use tiles or images and things like that. But we're going to order fractions by changing the denominator. So let's say I give you 3 fractions. Let's pretend they all have the same denominator. Let's do 4 fifths, 1 fifth, 3 fifths. And let's put those in order. The smallest fraction, I know Jin Kong is like, oh, this is so easy, Mrs. Brazil. I know. Which one's the smallest of the 3? They all have the same denominator, so really I just have to look at the numerators. What's smaller, 4, 1, or 3? 1. 1 fifth, and then what's the next one? 4 fifths or 3 fifths? 3 fifths. And what's the next one? 4 fifths. So we put that in order from least to greatest, from smallest to biggest. Easy, right? But what if they had different, let me use different numbers, different denominators. Let's say we had 2/3, 3/4, and 1/2. Okay? And I will take a picture of this when we're done, but if you want to write this with me, it might be really helpful to you. So these are the fractions we have to order. We have to order them from least to greatest. And the first thing we're going to do, and I'll just, in fact, I'm going to make these a little smaller. 2/3, I forgot my numbers, 3/4, and 1/2. And we're going to do step 1. When we used to find multiples in class, we used to make a T-chart. We're going to do that again, but we're going to do that with the 3 denominators that we have. What are our 3 denominators? 3, 4, 2. Remember, numerators are up, denominators are down. So step 1, I'll use a different one. Find least common multiple. That means we're going to skip count with all our denominators, and we're going to find what's the smallest number that they can all become if we were skip counting all of them. And I'll show you that here. Let's take 3, 4, and 2. And we're going to skip count, and we're going to find a common multiple. So let's skip count 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Let's just stop there. We might have to go further, but let's stop there for now. Now let's do 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Let's stop there. And now let's do 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Let's stop there. So now we have to see what number is in all 3 of these columns. Well, not 3, not 6, not 9. Well, 12. Here's 12 here, 12 here, and 12 here. 8 is in both of these, but it's not in 3. Right, 6 is here and here, but it's not in 4. 4 is here and here, but it's not in 3. The only number that is in all 3 of them is 12. If we kept going, we might have found more common, but this is the smallest number, 12. So now we are going to step 2. We are going to make all of our fractions. We're going to change all of their denominators to 12. Because it's easier to order fractions when they all have the same denominator. If you have fraction tiles, it's really easy to look at your fraction tiles or look at your paper or whatever you're using, and you can see which one's bigger, 2/3, 3/4, or 1/2. But if you don't have those things, and as the numbers get bigger and they're not on our fraction strips anymore, you're going to have to know how to do this. So let's change each one of these, okay? So let's change 2/3. And we have to make 2/3. This is what we've been doing with equivalent fractions, equals something over 12, right? There's our empty box. How did I get my 3 to become a 12? I have to multiply by 4. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 2 times 4, 3 times 4, so I do 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So now 2/3 equals 8/12. Okay, so that's one of my fractions, 8/12. Now let's do 3/4. 3/4 equals something over 12. Well, let's do it again. How did I get my 4 to become a 12? Times 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do the top. Times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9/12. 3/4 is the same as 9/12. Now last one, 1/2. And some of you guys already know what the answer is going to be without even doing these equivalent fractions. 1/2 equals something over 12. How did I get my 2 to become a 12? Times 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 1 times 6 is 6. So see here how I just changed all my fractions so they all have a denominator of 12. I didn't change the numbers, I didn't change the value, I just changed, I made them exactly the same. It's just a different way of saying it. Now, 12, 12, 12, now we have all the same denominators. Instead of having 3, 4, and 2, we have 12, 12, and 12. And now we can put them in order. Now I'm just looking at my numerators. Which one's the smallest one? 8, 9, or 6? Well, 6. 6/12 is the smallest. So what's the smallest fraction we have? 1/2. This one's the smallest one. What's next? 8 or 9? 8. So the next smallest one is, or the next largest one is, 2/3. So that leaves 9/12 or 3/4. My crooked writing. And that's how we find the common denominator, so we can find common fractions. So if I was going to show you this on tiles, I don't know if I can hold these up. Let's see. I should have grabbed my magnetic ones. I don't know what I was thinking. So 1/2 should be the smallest one. 2/3 should be bigger. I think we can safely say that 2/3 is bigger than 1/2. Now let's see if 3/4 is bigger than 2/3. Oops. Yep. 3/4 is bigger than 2/3. So that's another way you can do it with your fraction tiles. If you don't have any, or you don't have a paper in front of you, you have to be able to do this. You have to be able to change the denominator. I'm going to take a picture of this, but it's so much better to use this video, rewind, pause, right? Practice with me and do all that. Because you are going to have to order fractions in your quiz today. Comparing fractions, ordering fractions. You got this. All right, so for writing today, yesterday we worked on the beginning and middle of our stories, right? We worked on who our somebodies are, what do they want, what are they fighting for, what gets in their way, what problems do they face, what do they do about it, all that good stuff. Today we're going to focus on writing the ending. Remember, your beginning, middle, and end, I don't expect the entire story just yet, right? We're just getting down as many ideas as we can, and we can always add more ideas and details and edit later. So just get down what you can. The ending of our story, this is going to be very short and sweet. The ending, you are going to tell me I can't think. You are going to tell me how the story ends, how the problem gets solved, right? What do they do to overcome the obstacle? What do they learn, or what do they figure out, or what did they accomplish to solve this problem? How did your character or characters change? Are they nicer now, or are they meaner? Did they learn something? Are they more accepting of people? How, across the story, how have they changed? Hopefully for the better, but maybe not. It's your story. That's what you're doing today. So remember, we did somebody once, but, so, then, and then here you are basically wrapping it up with finally. Right? Finally, what happens? How does this end? And that's all you're doing for writing today. All right, guys. Today we're going to read chapter 4 of Restart, but I want to do a little bit of recapping because I've been reading your answers to the questions, and some of them are really, really interesting. So in chapter 1, we met Chase, and we found out he has no idea who he is, which, and what I would think is he's pretty scared, confused, he doesn't know what's going on, right? Think about how his family feels. He doesn't remember his own mom, all this stuff. We're learning maybe Chase wasn't the nicest guy. We read about Shoshana, who tells us that he pretty much tortured her brother, who she considers to be her best friend. So some of you guys were saying that Shoshana was a bully, which I thought was really interesting, because to me, I'm thinking Chase was the bully and Shoshana was just standing up for her brother. But it's interesting that you guys think Shoshana is mean, and I think some people said she needs to take anger management classes because she's angry. But I think Shoshana was just being a good sister because she doesn't know that Chase has amnesia. She doesn't know that he doesn't remember. So from her point of view, this mean guy who has made her brother's life so miserable smiles at her, right? How would you feel if you were in her shoes and maybe you would go dump yogurt all over his head too? Who knows? But we're learning a little bit more about Chase, and the principal's response was really interesting. Like, you have this fresh start, which makes me feel like the principal knows Chase wasn't a very nice guy. So now you have this opportunity to be somebody better. So it's kind of interesting to see if he'll take that opportunity or not. But he's still very confused. He doesn't remember all these bad things that he did. So now chapter 4, we're going to meet a new character, Brendan Espinoza. And now we're reading again from Brendan's point of view. He's the narrator in this chapter. And while we're reading, Brendan's kind of a funny guy. While we're reading, I want you to think about two things. I want you to think about what kind of person was Chase before the accident, right? What kind of things did he do? What kind of friends did he have? I guess he still has, right? And what kind of enemies did he make? And does he still seem like that person? Because I know he has said some interesting things, like when he was meeting his stepsister. Gosh, it seems like they wanted nothing to do with me. You know, what did I ever do to them? It's like, well, now that we know more about Chase, maybe he did do some mean things to them. We don't know yet, but it makes sense. So what kind of person was he, and does he still seem like he wants to be that person? So we're going to read from Brendan's point of view, and this is kind of a short chapter. So the impressive breadth and diversity of wildlife in the modern middle school is on display nowhere more than in this lunchroom. Here we see the species Cheerleaderus maximus grazing in her native habitat, the salad bar. So Brendan is narrating what he's seeing in the cafeteria. I focus on Brittany Vandervelde and Letitia Butts as they make their delicate selection of lettuce, cucumber, and tomato slices. As I shoot, I balance the flip cam on my forearm to keep it steady. Everything looks better on YouTube when the camera work isn't all lumpy. So he's recording and he's talking about his classmates. A longing glance in the direction of the pizza table. I continue my narration. But alas, it is not to be for cheerleaderess. This meal is garnished with a radish rose and fat-free dressing. And wait! I pulled back the shot to include Jordan McDaniel heading out of the food line with a heavily laden tray. So he has lots of food on his tray. Could it be? Yes, a rare clumsius faldownus, weaving his way to the nearest table. You can do it, clumsius. Oh no, there goes the soup and that orange rolling across the floor. Oh man, this stuff writes itself. Who needs a script when you've got real life? And now we leave the relative safety of the food line and venture into the lion's den. I go on panning over to the corner table where Aaron, Bear, and some of their football buddies are eating too much and laughing too loud. This is the land of the carnivores, where lesser animals fear to tread. Don't I know it? I'm filming on maximum zoom. Even though it's bound to be a little blurry, I sure don't intend to go any closer and get fed my own video camera. But where's their leader, the apex predator? Could that be him paying for a pack of Fig Newtons at the cash register? Yes, it is, the king of beasts. Footballus herois, his thunderous footsteps striking terror in the hearts of all creatures great and small. Watch him make his majestic way too. As I pan my flip cam to follow Chase Ambrose's path to his football buddies, he disappears from the frame. I frown. I'm not going over there. He's headed to somewhere else. I get him back into the shot and struggle to continue my voiceover. But wait, mighty Footballus has changed direction. He's taking his mighty self to a different table for reasons known only to his supreme mightiness. He's coming. Oh my God, he's coming here. I whip the camera away fast enough to leave a trail of burnt air hanging in the cafeteria. He's right opposite me, larger than life, holding his tray over my table. Why is Chase Ambrose coming anywhere near lowly me? Does he know I'm making fun of him and his friends in a YouTube video? If so, I'm dead. No ifs, ands, or buts. Seems like a lot of people are afraid of Chase. This guy is definitely afraid of Chase and all his athlete friends. My last interaction with him was the time he and his co-Neanderthals stood me against a tetherball pole and then played an intense game, the rope whipping around me until I was trussed up like a turkey. I'd probably still be there if the I know, I'm sorry, I'm reading. I'd probably still be there if the sanitation workers hadn't come to empty the dumpster that day. Actually, I'm lucky it wasn't in the dumpster. Those jerks bullied Joel Weber so badly that his folks finally sent him to boarding school. Is anyone sitting here? Chase asks. I glance up, expecting to get a face full of something. He's standing there looking like he's never laid eyes on me before. My mind screams, red alert, but aloud I say, help yourself. He takes a seat and then actually spreads his napkin across his lap, just like a civilized person, although I look down at my own lap, no napkin, and probably none on any lap in the entire cafeteria. This is the weirdest thing that's ever happened, unless, could the rumors be true? It was the biggest news in town that the great Chase Ambrose fell off his roof and landed on his head this summer. You can still see the cuts and scrapes on his face and his arms in a sling. But the gossip around school is that the guy actually has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything from before the accident. I thought it was just a rumor. Hey, leave me alone. But what other explanation could there be for why he's sitting here with me instead of his football friends and acting like a human being, no less? My video on hold, I turn back to eating, and let me tell you, that's not easy when you're sitting across from the apex predator, amnesia or not. I read that some amnesia is temporary, and if all comes back to him, I could have my entire egg salad sandwich shoved up my nose just for daring to be near him. Then I noticed that he's struggling to saw away at a barbecued chicken breast. The dull plastic utensils don't make it easy, especially with one arm immobilized against his chest. He's really working hard at it. Beads of sweat stand out on his brow. I speak the craziest, most foolhardily words that have ever come out of my mouth. You need some help with that? No, thanks. He keeps on sawing, going nowhere, his frustration growing. I still can't explain why I do it. I get up, loop around the long table, and approach Chase from behind. It's easier when both arms work. He battles a moment longer and then gives in with a sigh. Maybe I could use a hand. So there I am, in the middle of the cafeteria, hunched over the apex predator, cutting up his chicken. At one point, Shoshana Weber passes by and shoots me a look that perfectly combines shock, amazement, and disapproval. Or maybe she's just trying to figure out why I'm sawing at his meat instead of his artery. I finish, put down the knife, and hand him back the fork. Thanks, he says sheepishly. No big deal. I return to my side of the table, sit down, and hit the floor hard. A chorus of laughter explodes all around me. That's when I notice I'm surrounded by football players. Bear puts my chair down on top of me, trapping me under it. Chase, man, you're at the wrong table, Aaron exclaims. Come with us. We saved you a spot. They practically kidnap him and drag him to the lion's den. A few seconds later, the chair is lifted off me, and somebody hauls me to my feet. Chase. Sorry, he says, looking uncomfortable. Come on, man, over here, comes a volley of shouts. He hesitates. They're your teammates and your best friends, I tell him, because maybe he doesn't remember. Right. If I didn't know better, I'd think he wasn't that thrilled with that idea. Back in my seat, I take out my camera and realize that the video has been running the whole time. There's no picture, obviously, but the audio is all there. I might listen to it later just to prove to myself that I had a close encounter with Chase Ambrose and lived to tell the tale. So that's very interesting. This Brendan guy is obviously very terrified of Chase and kept comparing him to a predator, right? And Chase doesn't seem like that bad of a guy, in my opinion. It says he's supposed to go over to all the crazy football guys and he hesitates, right? He stops. And then he helps Brendan when the other guys are being mean and bullying him. So it seems interesting. So in your question, 3 to 5 sentences. 3 to 5 sentences. You're going to think, what kind of person was Chase before the accident? And does it seem like he still wants to be that person? Or maybe not. I don't know.